So this is Unit 4, and we're going to talk about polynomial functions. Polynomials are when you have more than one term. And remember, a term is anything that is separated by an addition sign or a subtraction sign. And you should see variables, numbers, exponents, and things like that. So the first thing we're going to look at is the degrees of a polynomial. So for example, right here, when you have just a number by itself, basically you can't see an x, but the x is there because x to the 0th power is equal to 1, and 1 times anything is itself. So basically, whenever you just see a number by itself, we call it a constant. When the degree or the exponent is equal to 1, we don't write it, but it's just there, x by itself. When you have other things around it, it's a linear function. When you have a square, it's a quadratic. We spent a lot of time working on quadratic functions. And in this unit, you will see cubic functions when you have a 3, quartic functions when you have a 4, and quintic functions when you have a 5, and higher also, but we just say 6 degree, 7 degree, and so on. So that's how we classify or name polynomials when you see the highest degree, and these are the different names for it. We can also classify or name polynomials based on the number of terms it has. Okay, so if you just see one term by itself, basically you don't see any addition or subtraction signs after this, you see it by itself. We call it a monomial. And then if you see two terms, so here negative 2x and then 5, we call it a binomial. And then when you have three terms, we call it a trinomial. If you see more than three terms, we usually just say 4 terms, 5 terms, and so on. So let's practice classifying polynomials based on their degrees and their terms. So let's look at the degrees first. So we're going to go in here and look at the highest degree. So the degree here is 2. So we say that this is a quadratic. Okay. And then this one, the degree is a 4. So let me see. For a fourth degree, we call it a quartic. Okay. Um, and then here it is a 3 here. So whenever you have a 3, we call it a cubic function. Oops, where am I typing? Cubic function. I mean a cubic, yeah, cubic function. Here, the highest degree that I see, the exponent is a 6. So we can just call this a 6th degree. And then here, the x, there's a degree of 1 here, even though we don't see it. We know it's there. So this is whenever it's the degree of 1, this is, we call it a linear. The reason we call it a linear is because when you graph this, you would see a line. All right, so these are the ways we can classify based on their degrees. Now let's look at their classification by the number of terms it has. So remember, a term is anything that's being separated by addition sign or a subtraction sign. Here's an addition, here's a subtraction. So we can name the polynomial by its degree, or sorry, the number of terms. So this one right here, let's just count. It has 1, 2, 3 terms. So whenever it has 3 terms, we call it a trinomial. So if it has one term right here, even though there's a 5, and a 4, there's like 3 things you see here, but this whole thing here is one term because it's all held together without an addition or subtraction. So when you see just one by itself, we call it a monomial. Monomial, that's not how you say it, monomial. Okay, this one has 2 terms, 1, 2, so if it has 2 terms, we call it a binomial. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4. So if it's 4 terms, we usually just say it polynomial with 4 terms. And then finally, this one, it has 2 terms, so we can call it a binomial again. Okay, so just kind of putting it all together, this is a trinomial with it's a quadratic and a trinomial. This is a monomial, a quartic monomial, and then so on. Okay?